Well, ladies, it's wonderful to have you both here today, and I see you're both wearing purple, and that usually signifies Alzheimer's. And I have a feeling that's what we might be talking about today. So,
Yes.
Nancy, what's going on? What are you finding with, I know you stay on top of everything. What are you finding with Alzheimer's disease?
I do. Well, of course, we're finding that it's very prevalent. There's a lot more people afflicted with it. I think at this point right now there's about 5 million people that suffer from Alzheimer's disease. And Alzheimer's, you know, we always say Alzheimer's, but there's many types of memory loss or dementias, as we call them. And as the population gets older, by 2050 they're expecting about 16 million to have Alzheimer's disease.
Really?
Yeah, so it's a growing health concern. But one of the things that I love about my job, and I know Diane too, is we really try to work with families. We want to kind of take that stigma away from the disease and let people know, you know, it's okay to have memory loss. Now we need to know how to work with it and still have the best quality of life that we can, even though we're diagnosed with such a disease.
And Diane, you've got various support groups, I believe, going on over at Muroc. Can you tell us about those, or you've had some events that were centered around Alzheimer's?
Right. Well, this month we wanted to highlight Alzheimer's Caregivers Month, just to raise awareness.
Sure.
Yeah, that these caregivers need support. And last week we actually had what we call a virtual dementia tour, and it's where we put the goggles on and some gloves, and we just to give the caregiver an idea of what it feels like to be without their sight or their ability to open pill bottles, or just to do your basic daily tasks. And so we send the caregiver into a room, and we have 5 tasks that we give them, and they have 10 minutes to complete those tasks, and try to remember all 5 of the tasks. We don't remind them again.
Right.
And it just gives them a feel for what it's like to be, you know, have those different impairments that the different dementias can
a mile
cause.
in Alzheimer patients' shoes.
Right. And when they came out, they felt like it was very helpful to them. To be more aware of what their loved one is going through every day, and it just kind of helping them have more patience for them, and understanding that this disease is not their loved one. It's not what's really defining them, that this is something outside of them that's not who they really are. And so it just gives them greater patience for them.
And I'm glad you really touched on, Nancy, I know you do a lot of testing for Alzheimer's at the Fairlamb Clinic, and it's always good to know that people are educating themselves, or you're helping them become educated, especially with the sight portion of it. I can remember years ago that people were concerned, well, why are they not eating? And it's called, depending, because of the sight loss that accompanies Alzheimer's, that the plate, they were actually not seeing all of the food on the plate.
Yes, there's lots of little tricks, and I know the support group talks about those, but you're right. Sometimes when you have a multi-pattern plate, they can't differentiate like the peas or from the flowers, or so they say to use just a solid color plate.
Right.
And even your placemats and stuff, they tell you to keep the table simple when you go to eat. And not use flowered placemats, because sometimes the patterns are very distractive to someone with memory loss. And there's, over the years, we have learned lots of great tips, and part of both of our goals is to help educate families and to make them aware of the different tips that are available out there, so that, you know, they're going to cope with changes better.
Can you think of some of those tips that we can share with our viewing audience today that may have a loved one at home that's suffering from Alzheimer's?
Definitely. I think sometimes in the early stages of memory loss, what I tell people, routine. People do very well with routine. So if they normally get up at 8 o'clock and they normally do their shower in the morning, the more that you stay with that normal routine for them, down the road they're going to do better. Also, calendars are a great thing to use early in the disease to help keep track of appointments or dates.
Or
And
today is Monday,
Yep.
the weather is rainy.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And now they even have, like, for people with a little more advanced memory loss, they have clocks that will actually tell them what day it is, the time, and so they have a lot of neat little gadgets out there that are available. But one of the biggest things when we're caring for someone with Alzheimer's disease or any kind of memory loss, because you know, we say Alzheimer's, but there's lots of things that cause memory loss, and is that the caregiver learn to take care of themselves. You know, that's such an important aspect of caring for someone with dementia. And so I always try, and when we reach out to families and tell the caregiver early in the disease, to try and establish a circle of caregiving. You know, who do you have available? Do you have, you have good neighbors next door? Do you have family that live close by? Someone that can come over once a week and just visit with your spouse so that you can go for a few hours and have some time to yourself. I can't stress that enough, that it's so important for the caregiver to continue to do the things they enjoy and to allow themselves to take time for themselves, because otherwise they get so stressed and it becomes very overwhelming.
And I know I've read statistically sometimes it's the caregivers who pass away before their loved one is.
I think statistics say 60% of caregivers will die before their loved one with the disease, just from the stress
of it.
Yeah.
So you're right, you can't stress that enough. And I love that, build the foundation, build the support group right at the onset.
Oh, definitely. We have lots. They have a great support group at the Maruck Center. And I always tell people, you know, even your church, if you're involved in church, you know, start early. Don't wait till the disease gets advanced. Get your loved one used to someone coming in the house to visit once in a while. And then if the disease advances, you know, they're going to be used to people coming over, so then maybe you can stretch that time from 2 hours to 4 hours or whatever. And medication management is a big issue too. You know, people with memory loss, and I understand, they get very defensive. They think they can do their medicines themselves, you know, or they think they can still drive. And so it's very important that as a loved one that we're kind of checking those medicines, make sure that they're taking them appropriately. Sometimes we need to check the bottle to make sure that they're actually taking them out of there and the bottle's not been there for 3 months and only 10 are gone, you know. So there's a lot of really neat tips, and I know your support group, they try to always kind of include some tips and different things, and they have guest speakers. So.
And we have a lot of support from our Hensley Behavioral Health program at the hospital. They come over, and we have a social worker and the program director come over for a lot of our support groups. So it's a very educational support group, along with just that support from other caregivers that are, you know, that you just realize I'm not alone. I'm not alone in this, and there's a lot of resources for them this way. And even last month for our support group, we had Dr. Foster come over, and he's the psychiatrist over there, and he came over and very, very good. He was able to answer a lot of questions
that the group had.
Yes.
We are so fortunate to have a psychiatrist in our small town.
We are.
And he's doing such a wonderful job up at the Hensley Behavioral Health Center with the patients that come in to us.
And sometimes I'll say at the support group, sometimes we learn more from each other. You know, they'll hear a situation or a story and they learn, okay, you know, that's not so abnormal, that maybe this is part of the disease process, and to know, like you said, that they're not alone out there. So.
I was thinking too, I remember just exactly what you're saying, and sitting with a group, and as folks were talking about various things that worked for them, one of the things that kept coming up time and again was color coding. And they would color code literally a door that went into your, like, this is your bedroom. And so, you know, and favorite color was red, so that was where they went.
That, or if you can hang a picture of the person, probably from in their 30s or 40s, because they're not going to recognize themselves today normally, but they'll recognize a picture from in the past. And you know, it just depends on what level of memory loss you have. But if you have someone with really advanced memory loss and you're concerned about wandering, that they're going to leave the house during the night, sometimes you can paint the doors the same color as the wall, and they won't recognize the door. They can't figure it out. They say a black mat in front of the door. That person with memory loss, they have trouble with visual spatial, so they'll see that black mat and they'll think it's a hole and they won't cross that.
it.
And then I always tell people our baby department has great things at Walmart or one of those little local stores. You can buy doorknob things that they just don't have the capability to figure out, and latches for different things. So there's a lot of neat little things you can do to keep that environment safe. And something recently I've been reading up on is, you know, sometimes we need to designate an area for our loved one who has memory loss that they can pilfer through. Like, you know, if they have bedroom, and make sure that there's safe things. They have dresser drawers they can go through. It keeps them busy. Some people enjoy that. Sometimes I'll have patients who just like to stack the mail and constantly go through the mail. Of course, now you got to be careful so they don't start ordering a lot of stuff, as that could become an issue. But, you know, to give them a space that's a safe space, that you know that, you know, there's no detergents or nothing that's going to harm them, but that they still can kind of feel useful and do normal things.
I can think of a task too with folding clothes and matching socks.
Definitely.
Was always one that a lot of women, I mean, they'd done it all their lives as they raised their family, and if they were unfortunate to have Alzheimer's disease, it would be something that they were used to, but as you say, felt productive, it was safe.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's even cooking, you know, if they can sit there and tear lettuce for you, or anything you can do to help them to be involved, I mean, it's just going to help things go smoother in the long run.
Yeah.
But we're very fortunate in this area. We have a lot of great support things. You know, we have the Baxter Adult Daycare, we have the support groups at the Murak, plus all your other programs you do, and we have Kindness that, you know, once in a while if someone needs respite, but we just have so much available here that it's really a great area for growing old or working with the
what
disease.
is the Kindness?
Well, Kindness sometimes, of course, they do transportation.
Kindness Inc. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
And,
okay.
But I have known them sometimes in the past, they'll respite care.
They
may
do
have
respite,
someone
really?
come and just sit and visit for a couple hours once a week.
Okay.
And it doesn't cost anything that way, and it allows the loved one to be able to go for a couple hours. And of course, and then we have a lot of great home care agencies, but for someone who doesn't have the financial means, and if their loved one's early and the spouse just doesn't feel safe to leave them home, you know, sometimes they can utilize them, and they usually match them pretty good, and most of the time it benefits both. The person
That's
really
wonderful.
enjoys the visit.
I didn't realize that they did any sort of respite care, and other than, I knew they did the transportation, but that's all I was aware of.
They don't do any hands-on, like if they need help going to the bathroom or that, but if you just need someone to come and sit for an hour or two.
While you run out to get groceries or something, and need to know that they're safe.
Yeah, so we have a lot of great programs in our area.
That's great.
You know, this Friday we're going to have our support group.
Okay.
And Nancy's going to come and talk to our caregivers about surviving the holidays.
And we're going to talk about,
yeah, it's something I was thinking about. You know, I take that for granted.
Yeah.
I have a lot of freedom.
Yeah.
But if you're a caregiver, you know, the holidays are different.
Sure.
For you, and so she's going to have some survival tips.
Yeah.
Great. Can you share those as soon as we come back from a break?
Yes,
All
sure.
right. All right, don't go away. We'll be back right after a short commercial break.